All right, this is game number 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I didn't catch the earlier ones of Midas versus Yevon. I think given that it is a no combo set, something useful we can do is look at the past games and look at the move orders and think who might have gotten advantage via move order, even though we don't know the cards. So, for instance, the first game, Midas Yevon, went 7-1-4, right? So that's a wall on the left, which means that Yevon on second turn is the first person able to secure a card. And usually that favors second turn, as we've talked about repeatedly on this round 2 rule set. So I'm going to guess that Yevon got an advantage in game 1. Game 2 went 4-3-9. So that's a complex situation. 6-5. So we got a T where Yevon had the secured card in the T. Again, structurally, that sounds good for Yevon. It's not clear he had great cards left for that endgame, but another structural advantage for Yevon. This is not what I was expecting. I think of Midas as a more technical, structurally advantaged player, and Yevon as a more find ways to unbalance the game that might not perform as well in a non combo set. So I'm a little surprised and impressed that Yevon seems to be getting structural advantages here. Game 3 went 3-9-2. But there was no capture in 6. Wait, it says 3 twice. Oops. I'm gonna ask about that one, because that one I clearly have it listed wrong. Okay, game 4 went 7-9-8. Midas on second turn. That's an advantage for Midas. So, structurally, coming into this game, I think Yevon has had 2 advantages, Midas 1, and one of the games was listed incorrectly. So I'm going to send a message for that. And we'll look at this one, where it looks like structurally favors Yevon, right? He has the first locked in card. However, he is somewhat significantly lacking in up power. It's going to be really hard for him to attack things. On the other hand, Trapdoor is a card he can attack. And it's not necessarily obvious how Midas wants to attack Yevon's cards. But I think Midas can probably go either 3 or 5. I don't like 7 so much because I want the game facing down if I'm Midas. But if you go something like 6-3-7-3-3, they go 5, you can then capture whatever they put in 5, 4-6-7-4 if possible, but 7-3-4-6 works. And unless you're getting swept at the bottom in the end, you hold. But maybe you are getting swept at the bottom in the end. 4-5-4-7, actually, if 7-3-4-6 is out of your hand, sweeps you. But 7-3-4-6 only comes out of your hand if you had to put 4-5-4-7 in 5. He takes the 5 path. Now 6-3-7-3 protects 3, and this locks in the card in 4. So this definitely does make sense. If Yevon was worried here, no, I was thinking you can force a tie with Trappy and 7, but you can't. Because if Midas goes 8, it does force the tie. You take from 9 and you keep 4-3-7-6 in your hand and you tie. But Midas should go in 3 there. And then it's unpleasant. But still a tie. You play a 4-3-7-6 and 6. No, that's not a tie. I can't count. Alright. So, okay, this might be dangerous for Yevon. If you go in 3, they go safely in 6. And you don't have a great way to play that endgame, I don't think. Yeah, it looks tough to play that endgame. This might be Midas's win, which would be make me look silly. But maybe 2-1-2A and 9 is the way to go. Yeah, that looks like the way to go. Because anything Midas puts in 6, you get a double capture. Anything Midas puts in 3, you're gonna flip 5. You're gonna make it 5/5, and your 4/5/4/7 can take anything that goes in 8 or 7. Trappy in 9 looks sufficient to hold this. I would have thought there would be a way to attack this, though. If Trappy 8 set up a threat in 7, it could be a better sequence than my version of go 7, make them go 8. Go 8, make them go 7 would work the same way. But Trappy does not set up a threat in 7, so Midas doesn't have to block it. So the only move that looks like a tie to me, which doesn't mean I'm not missing stuff, is 2-1-2A and 9. Where 4-5-4-7 sweeps the bottom and 4-3-7-6 sweeps enough the right. Right, he goes for the 2-1-2-A-7 plan, which was my first instinct for, like, this is the tie, but I don't think it is. I don't think it is. I think Midas can now go 3, and Midas is going to take it. Ooh, maybe he doesn't. No, yeah, Yevon saw this better than me. I was, if Midas goes 3, or let's check the cards. If Midas goes 3 with 6-3-7-3, 4-5-4-7 as a plus and 8, making it 5-5. And it sets up a plus on 4-3-7-6 and 9 such that it can take Tonberry King. Okay, this should hold then. Or at least I think it probably holds. The other two cards landing in 6 can't recapture 5. This is a nicely set up plus. And if Midas goes in 8, Yevon can simply take in 9, and 4-3-7-6 is going to flip stuff at the end. 6 makes no sense, and 9 makes no sense. Yevon just blocks 8 with 4-5-4-7. Okay, so I stopped calculating this line too early. I didn't see A, that 4-5-4-7 and 8 flipped 5, and B, that it set up a plus with 4-3-7-6 and 9. And those were the two key things that make this work. I didn't check it deeply enough. I do think Trappy and 9 also worked, but this is a nice hold from Yevon. Clearly there were multiple ties, unless I'm wrong about 9 or wrong about this, but I think none of them were trivial. Like, it's hard to play a 9 when you don't have recaptures. It's hard to play in 7, just trying to force a structure favorable to you, while doing actively kind of damaging seeming things on the board. So I really liked how Yevon's handled this, actually, holding this one. Yeah, so Midas does go 6-3-7-3-3, Yevon goes 4-5-4-7-8, Midas goes 4-6-7-4-6, and 4-3-7-6 in 9 has the plus to hold the tie. All right, I missed a move. I went 1, 2, 4, 7. I missed 5. All right, so another tie. The only one I've seen clear advantage for Midas, even though it felt like maybe Yevon should be structurally better, his directional weakness really did tell. And I think Midas attacked it very nicely, going after the starter. I tend not to like captures on same plus wall, but clearly he got a very nice position out of it. All right, solid game. We'll see if I can get a corrected move order on the previous one. 1, 2, 4, 5, 7, 3, 8, 6, 9. Yep. All right. And we'll pause while we wait for the next one. And we're on to game 6. So one thing that is hilarious and now continues in this match. So I was looking through the records, and every single one of them. So game 1, they both use Trapdoor as a rare. Game 2, they both switch to Ada. Game 3, back to Trapdoor. Game 4, more Trapdoor action. Game 5, still on Trapdoor. And now here in Game 6, they've both switched back to Ada. They've both used Trapdoor 4 times and Ada twice, but amusingly, in games 2 and 6 here, they have switched at the exact same moments to using Ada. So every single game, both of them have used the same rare. I like the 4/6/4/7s. That was one of my instincts on this rule set. Now, if I was playing this, I would start Ada in 7, because that's how I think. I will say Yevon started Ada in 7 one of the games. And after Midas went 9, he went 8, which is not what I'm looking for out of a move start in 7. But here, I guess the worry is that Midas could go 4/3/7/6 in 1. You kind of want to have a weak corner, and they can't play a 7 facing towards it that you cannot take. That you can take any 7 facing towards it. Because I think the best responses on this set, and this is not what tournament play so far has really looked like, though adjacent corners have done very well. But my theory of this set, regardless of how the games have actually gone, is you generally want to be playing adjacent corners. And the strength of an adjacent corner is, one of the strengths, is if you have a high number facing towards their starter they can't take, it's really hard for them to set up against it. Imagine cards in 7 or 9. If you don't have a good card for 8, the only way to set up 8 for yourself is to go in 5, and that gives the opponent a completely free square in 8 where they can choose whatever card to put there, and they're going to have some advantage. So you don't want to be met with an adjacent corner. It's just a tough situation. So you want to be able to take potential adjacent corners. Midas could also play 1/1/A4 in 1. And you'll notice Midas, much like Tezuka showed, has paired his rare with a triple number card, guaranteeing he has some recaptures that Yevon doesn't have. And I think that's a nice way of playing it, because Midas now can either use it as a weak corner that's easy to take back on first turn, though no one's been doing that except Yevon one game, or on second turn can play it as a strong thing that is hard for Yevon to take. To me, Ada seems just better than Trapdoor, unless it really fits the directions of what cards are available much better. I would much rather play with Ada. First of all, I like the 1/1 backside. It can pick off plus walls against Ada itself or against Trapdoor, while Trapdoor can't really pick up plus walls against anything, because 2/1 picks off 9s. Also, the 1/4 has the potential for plus walls, right? It seems less of a dead card aside its one strength. And I think that's quite nice. So I would be leaning Ada if I was going to go a rare over Trappy. Check my messages. Okay, so we see a starter in 9 very quickly met by 1/1/A4 and 2, which is an odd move, because now Yevon can play 8, and 9 is safe for him. Now Midas might be saying, I have good recaptures in 1 and 3 that take advantage of your lack of up, but it's hard for Midas to play those yet. If he goes 1, then Yevon can go 4/3/7/6 and 3. If he goes 3, then, well, what would he put in 3? I guess he has to put 7/5/6/2. But if he puts 7/5/6/2, he doesn't have a 7 up, and Yevon can put 5/7/6/4 and 2. This makes me think Yevon should play Ada in 8, because I think he wants to keep 4/3/7/6. Sorry, he needs to keep 4/6/4/7 to control 7s down in 3, and he needs to keep 4/3/7/6 to potentially go in 3, and he needs to leave 5/7/6/4 to potentially go in 1, and he should probably play 8, because then his card in 9 is safe. So it seems to me the natural move is Ada in 8. I'm not saying it's winning or anything, but it seems like pressure. Now, one thing Midas could actually do that might be his intent here. No, I don't think that's a great idea. I like Ada and 8. I think Ada and 8's a pretty decent move. I think Midas probably has ties in 5 and maybe in 7 as well, but most likely in 5. Because 5 you can set up a threat in 6, and Yevon can't really block 6, so Yevon probably meets it in 7. And then your 7-5-6-2 is really good up down in that endgame. Like, you play something in 6 that double captures, that probably draws out 4-3-7-6, and then 7-5-6-2 can operate safely. But it can operate safely either way because it can land in 1 as well as 4. So I'm thinking Ada 8, but I think Midas should be able to negotiate his way to a tie there. Right, and Ada is a worse 7 down than 4-3. I mean, is a worse down card than 4-3-7-6 because 6-6-3-6 controls it, while nothing really controls 4-3-7-6. So that to me seems the right way to manage it. Yeah, I like the look of Ada and 8. Again, I think it's a tie, but I think Midas has to be careful there. And it does feel to me kind of mandatory to go 8. Like, I guess 3 actually is legal. No, I don't like 3. I think you start 8. You wanna pair 1 and 3 such that you're the second one to play there if you can. And even if it's currently safe, I don't think we should be in a rush to grab it. Ada 8, nice. The move I wanted to see. Is it all that good? I don't know. I mean, I think it's some advantage. But Midas can probably go 5 or 7. Actually, maybe if 7, you just try to take 7 if you can. I'm not sure. Obviously, there's 7-5-6-2 and 7, which you can't take. But if like 6-7-4-4, you probably go 4 rather than 5. That seems right to me. Does look quite drawish. Hard to get significant initiative on this set. And Midas is a very difficult player to crack. Unless you're Seto, who seems to do so in one game every time, give or take. That's not quite true, but like in a low number of games. But Seto is like the trickiest player to ever live, so take that for what you will. I like Yevon's spot here. I think it's promising. My guess is Midas does not survive if he does not go in 5 or 7. Like if we see some move like 7-5-6-2 and 3, then I expect 5-7-6-4 and 1 will be winning. Lines like that. Right. If you go 1 or 3, I'm probably taking the other of 1 or 3 and feeling very good about myself. It's possible it's not winning because of some very specific line, but it seems very favorable. Midas going 6 doesn't make any sense. Midas going 4, I don't think makes any sense. So you're left with 5 or 7. If you go 5, I think it's really important to set up 6. So a move like 6-6-3-6 and 5 makes sense to me, while a move like 7-5-6-2 and 5 would be terrible because that's a card you really need to sweep the up-down games. Be potentially safe, but also can pick stuff off, and yeah, just good up-down value is really useful here. If 7, I'm not sure if you can get away with a 6 up, but I think a 7 up should be able to hold the tie. Because it's hard for Yevon to put a card in 5. Because if you play 7, 5, 6, 2, and 7, and Yevon plays 5, 7, 6, 4, and 5, that gives you 6, 7, 4, 4, and 6, and you feel happy. And if he plays 4, 6, 4, 7, and 5, that gives you 4, 3, 7, 6, and 6, and you feel happy. And if he uses 4, 3, 7, 6, and 5, that doesn't give you anything, but you're happy to see his down sweeper out of his hand. So my guess is we're going to see 5 or 7. I actually currently think 5 is probably the more comfortable tie, but it's hard to check all the Z's and T's there. So I have certainly not done so. But luckily, I'm not responsible for the next move. I do think far sides in general are an interesting way to imbalance, and if you have an up-down advantage, they can make sense. And 7-5-6-2 means Midas does have an up-down advantage. But in general, non-combo sets are going to veer more and more towards technical play, and making abstract non-technical moves is likely to be something that gets you in trouble on this kind of rule set. All right, we do see 7-5-6-2 and 7. And we have a question. Can a win be eked out here? So 4, 3, 7, 6, and 5 has to be critical. 4, 3, 7, 6, and 5. Let's think. That makes it 5, 5. If Yevon goes in 6 with a 6 facing up, you cannot take it. You can play 5, 7, 6, 4 in 4, and you lead 6, 4. And I think you just win. Because 4, 6, 4, 7 can always flip the card in 2, and it doesn't actually need an extra capture. Because you have the whole bottom row. So I think you win against anything in 6. What if they block 4? Well, if they block 4, they cannot block 4 safely. So they're going to take a 6-4 lead, and you're going to go 6-4 back. You're going to flip either way. But they can play safely in 6, so 4 probably does hold. 1 or 3 is kind of strange here against what they might actually hold. Yeah, really hard to reach a winning position. So if you conclude 5 doesn't work, which I might be wrong about, it might work. But if you conclude 5 doesn't work, the other square that I think is really appealing to play here is 6. But I'm not seeing 6 working. You don't quite have the cards clicking. You could also maybe play 3. 3 is kind of interesting. 4, 3, 7, 6, and 3. And the idea is if they go in 1 to take a 6-4 lead, you can take whatever they put in 1 if they capture. But if they didn't capture, great. 8 is now safe for you. You can play 5, 7, 6, 4, and 4, and they have no captures, and 4, 6, 4, 7 sweeps. Is that true? Nah, they can play 6, 7, 4, 4, and 5 if they've sequenced this right. Yeah. Everything is promising, nothing is winning, is my evaluation of this position. The best move is the move that gives your opponent the biggest chance to screw up. There's also 5, 7, 6, 4, and 1. But I don't think that's very good. It's easy for the 6s to the left to not be taken by your hand after that. So I would expect 3, 5, or 6 here. 6 didn't really click with me. So I would expect either 4, 3, 7, 6 in 5, or something in 6. Sorry, something in 3. 4, 3, 7, 6, and 3 or 5 is what I expect here. But I don't think either of them win. It's possible I miscalculated 4, 3, 7, 6, 3. Or 5. I wouldn't super trust my calculations here. Alright. We do not see either of those. He holds on to 4, 3, 7, 6, but I actually think at this point 5, 7, 6, 4 is a better card. But I guess 4, 3, 7, 6 is all the captures that 5, 7, 6, 4 would for something facing down from 1. That's interesting. So last time I thought 6, 6, 3, 6, 1 was the way to tie. And I still kind of think that must be the tie. That's looking tie-ish to me. You can't go 4. They go 1 and then you're sad. You can't go 5. Probably. Yeah, I don't think you can go 5. Not that you'd want to go 5. And I don't think you can go 6 either. Because 4, 3, 7, 6 sweeps the left pretty well. So they go 5. So I think you go 6, 6, 3, 6, and 1. And your idea is to meet 4 with 6, 7, 4, 4, and 5. Which actually I think beats 4. Because you go up 6, 4, they make it 5, 5. You go up 6, 4, they don't have any captures at the end. But Yevon can play elsewhere. For instance, 6 looks good enough for a tie. 4, 6, 4, 7, and 6. I think, okay, I thought you had to play 6, 6, 3, 6, and 1. Apparently not. You can order it this way. But you're going to get the same 2 cards, right? The idea in the other line was 1 and then 5. This is just 5 and then 1. Wait a second. There's 4, 3, 7, 6, and 6 here. No, no, no. I don't think this one works. 4, 3, 7, 6, and 6 flips 5. 5 is not safe right now. 5 is safe if you've drawn that out of the hand. Was this a loss and I just couldn't calculate it? Was 6, 6, 3, 6, and 1 met by 4, 3, 7, 6, and 4? 4, 5, 5. No, that's just a tie. Or sorry, 4, 6, 4, 7, and 4. Which is maybe not a tie. Yeah, 4, 6, 4, 7, and 4. Oh, this might have been a win. If so, really well played by Yevon. Really well played. Yevon keeps winning matches I do not expect him to win. Just playing really, really well. And what should probably happen is I should start expecting him to win these. I think Yevon really plays well versus top players. And he plays more shakily against weaker players. And it leads to him being, for me at least, really hard to predict. But a great win for Yevon. Yeah, 5, 7, 6, 4, and 3 looks like a fantastic move. I'm going to pop open the solver because I'm curious, but I did not think this was winning. I opened the wrong thing like a genius. Nope, please close. Go away. All right. I think Yevon just played a really great game, seeing a bunch of things I didn't. Let's put in hands. 7, 3, 5, 6. 1, 1, 8, 4. 5, 7, 6, 4. 4, 3, 7, 6. 4, 6, 4, 7. And the other thing is, Yevon's been completely inactive recently. So he just put up this huge win from being completely out of practice, which is also really cool. Great showing from Yevon. I'm really impressed. If that's not obvious. Let's flip over to the solver. So you have a black screen now because that's what it is while it's loading. So here. I really liked 11A48, which he played. And in this position, Midas has 4 ties. Now, my guess for tie was 6, 6, 3, 6, and 5 was what I felt most confident about. Okay, that does tie. I also thought 7, 5, 6, 2, and 7 should tie. And it loses to 3 different moves, so I completely miscalculated this endgame. What were the other ties? So, as I said, I thought 6, 6, 3, 6 feels safest. Okay, there was a tie in 6, that's deranged. This in 3 was a tie. No human is ever playing this. What human is ever going, yes, this is what I want? No. Okay, so that's completely inhuman tie. So 1 tie is just never going to happen. The tie in 3. The tie in 6, is this ever going to happen? No, these lines are never going to happen. No one's sacking 3 and 6 so they can land 7, 5, 6, 2, and 1. Okay, so 2 of the 4 ties don't exist for humans. So there was 6, 6, 3, 6, and 7, and 6, 6, 3, 6, and 5. I think these were the humanly doable ties. I thought this should tie. Apparently there were 3 wins. So I wanted, what did I want? I wanted either 4, 3, 7, 6, and 3, or 4, 3, 7, 6 in 5. And one of those wins. 5 wins. Okay. I thought this didn't win to, well, you can roll back the tape and figure out what I got wrong, but this does win. Okay. So 5 did win. I thought this was the next best option. This ties. So I missed 2 wins. No, that's the one I said. This wins. And the move played. Really well done. Yeah, great win. Because my line to tie here was 6, 6, 3, 6, 1, which is correct. And I assumed that worked here as well, because the line I kept checking was 4, 3, 7, 6 here, but you actually win there. But 4, 6, 4, 7 and 4, 3, 7, 6 sweeps, which I just hadn't ordered them in that way. But it makes a lot of sense, right? Both your cards want to be on the right, but one of your cards is also happy to be on the left, so you put that one on the left. I don't know why I was oblivious to this. Great win in 3. 5 was also winning, and also this harder to find move in 1 was winning. But this position, really difficult to tie. Really had to find one of these moves in 3 or 5, 7 or 5, and the other moves just, who is playing, who in this position is like, of course, I play 6, 6, 3, 6, and 6, and then I hit him with 1. I've just given up a complete side of the board, but no problem. I set up this plus, I hold the tie. No problem at all. No, this is lunacy. No humans tying that way. Really nicely done by Yevon. Again, I'm very impressed by this match. I was a little worried because when I saw what the solver said was winning here, I thought it hadn't picked this as one of the moves, but this was one of the moves. And as shown from my horrible miscalculations, I don't think this was a super easy position to just solve. I sort of thought this probably doesn't win and moved off it, but I wasn't sure entirely. But that was just bad, lazy calculation. Anyway, great calculation by Yevon. Well played by Yevon. A just huge and very impressive win for him. Yeah, Yevon keeps me on my toes.